morning. Kind of a different sort of video today. Have you ever heard of coppicing? If you're in the States, you probably haven't. In the UK, you might have. Basically what it is, it's a forestry practice where you cut a tree down and then it grows up tiny canes off its sprouts. And then you let those grow a little bit, then you cut those canes. And then you manage your plot of land where every few years you cut different ones and you always have a steady supply of canes. So in the UK, that's used for fences, hurdles, garden gates, all kinds of crafting, tool handles, baskets, all kinds of stuff. It's all over the UK. It's an important practice in the UK because like back in the late medieval period and such, actual timberland and the actual timber belonged to the king or to somebody the king chose. And normal people like us didn't have access to timbers in that way. So you could gather stuff that was smaller for your animal fodder and for your burning and for your own crafts. And certain trades like charcoal making and they actually use the coppicing, burn the coppicing to make the charcoal, etc. And that old term you might have heard where somebody says by hook and by crook, that actually means that like you're allowed to gather what you can get by a shepherd's hook and or a bill hook and a shepherd's, crook. So anyway, why are we talking about this? I live on 1 acre and it's a road called Acre Drive, and Mr. Acre lives at the top of the hill. His grandfather bought this chunk of property in 1906, and the road is supposed to have a 15-foot easement on both sides. So on the opposite side of the road from me, not on my property, there's a lot of cottonwood trees or poplar trees, something like that. And they grow up and they cover the road and they limit access. And we have a winery at the top of the hill that needs semis to get through, and it's always a problem. And so anyway, my friend Lauren wanted to weave some garden fencing, and I was like, oh, we should go up there in this October and just cut out of that patch. And my neighbor Jesus, he won't mind. And so we made a plan to do that. And then today I get home from taking Henry to school, and Mr. Acre is out there with the chainsaw, and he's going to town cutting some sprouts. And this stuff could be anywhere from this big to this big with huge branches. It's 10, 15, 20 feet tall. So I run up and ask if I can help because I don't think anybody ought to be working a chainsaw by themselves. And also I like to help my neighbors, and Mr. Acre is in his 70s, so let's both get on this. And so I ask if I can just keep the stuff because he's about to take it and burn it. He says I can have whatever I want, of course. So we start filling part of my yard, and then we eventually did fill up his truck as well. Our other neighbor Mike stopped by to help, and so the three of us got to it, and then we got to hear some stories from Mr. Acre about this land and when it was sold and bought and who lives where, and it's good to hear that stuff from your neighbors. And we got the whole thing done in about 90 minutes. So it's ugly out there, I get it. Next year, of course, it'll start looking good again, and we'll do a little more trimming. But basically, that stuff's gonna come back. That's what coppicing is. So I'm gonna show you some of the trunks that these are sprouted out of. And it's got a full root system of a giant tree, yet it only has these little canes. That's why they go up so fast. So in the United States, we don't traditionally coppice because in the United States, if you need more timber, you just keep going west and keep cutting more timber. We don't traditionally have a way to manage, small timberlands. We just cut it down and burn it, and we don't. And even if then we might replant, but we don't use this. So there are whole stands of trees in the UK that are coppiced that have been that way for hundreds of years. And if they're managed properly, it just keeps going. And it's a really cool way to do it because those root systems underground are really valuable. So anyway, let's go up there and see what we got done in this giant pile. And I'm gonna need Lauren and her other friend from town to come out and start cutting through this stuff because it's too much for me, that's for sure. Here's our little road. And so you can see starting here, we did 15 feet back all the way up to you see a white little post up there. That's how much we got cut today. It's full of rocks. It's really dangerous to cut in here. It's full of old stumps. It is not easy for one person to do, so I'm glad we help each other out. So here is one of the original. I don't know if you can notice, it is kind of hard to see out here. This is probably 2 feet across, 3 feet across, about 3 feet tall. And it's just a crazy gnarled stump that's been coppicing for years without wanting to. It's just happened. Here's another huge one. See this? Right here, up to there. That probably covered 15, 20 feet tall. There's more of them. So anyway, all the way up the road. And so we took all of this. Maybe it doesn't look like much to you, but it's probably 3 dump trucks full. So bright, maybe you can't see this. So, you know, this is like a typical branch from one of these stumps. So it's about 2 inches across here, it's about 20 feet long. So we can cut multiple posts from that, cut all the long branches to use for weaving, get multiple uses out of a piece like that. And I probably have 50 pieces that look like this. So that's coppicing. Hopefully I'll show you some of our projects when we get to it.